Okay, welcome to today's presentation, Why Your District Needs Apple TV. My name is Nick Thompson, and I'll be your host today. Joining me from our technical support team is Alex. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much, Nick. I'm very excited to teach all these lovely people about Apple TVs and why they need it in their district. I'm very excited, so thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Let's take a look at our agenda here today. First off, we're going to do just a brief overview of Jamf so that we're all familiar with who Jamf is and the products that we offer. Then we're going to talk about Apple TV management, so we'll do a basic overview of what's possible with this device. And then Alex is going to dive deeper into what does it mean to use Apple TV in the classroom, and what does it mean to use Apple TV throughout the entire school or your entire district. Again, we'll wrap up with some next steps and do Q&A at the end as well, too. So, first topic here, just a brief overview of Jamf for those who aren't familiar with us. Our mission is to help organizations succeed with Apple. This is all we do. We manage Apple devices better than anyone else out there because we solely focus on Apple. And we do it with our two products, Jamf Now and Jamf Pro. Jamf Now is really simple mobile device management, no IT required, versus Jamf Pro is really Apple management for IT professionals. And you can see a little bit of a breakdown of the two pieces of software here. Now, again, is all about easy device setup, simple management, security without complexity. Whereas Pro is the entire lifecycle management of devices, from deploying them without having to touch devices, doing configuration, app management, extensive inventory, security controls, and a great self-service app catalog for your users to get apps that they need without having to ask IT. Here are the two products kind of sitting side by side. You'll notice that they're all web-based, so you access everything through a web browser, and that's where you do all of your management tasks. Now, today's webinar is primarily going to focus on Jamf Pro, and that's because Pro has all of the management capabilities for Apple TV. If you're a smaller organization and you're interested in Now, I highly recommend you check out our website and you can sign up for a free trial of Jamf Now. But again, today's will focus on Pro. A little extra background here about Jamf. We help over 13,000 organizations manage over 9 million Apple devices. And of course, you see us in some of the traditional Apple markets like tech companies and marketing firms. But something that we're very, very proud of here is the number of schools that we support, over 6,000 schools across the globe. And again, we've been doing this for a while. We've actually been in managing Apple devices for over 15 years. And here's just a brief recent history of the different Apple operating systems that have come out and how we have been able to support all of the new management functionality of these operating systems the day that they were released, including Apple TV and tvOS. Which leads me to our next topic here, and that is an overview of Apple TV management. Now, for those of you who aren't even familiar with what an Apple TV is, we're looking at a picture of one here right on this screen, and it's just a little box that is designed for streaming, streaming content to it. And what's really cool about it is it's based on iOS. iOS, of course, is the operating system that runs on all of our iPhones and iPads, and this new tvOS runs on Apple TV. And Apple has came out with this a couple years back, and most recently, last spring, they've introduced management functionality to tvOS. So let's explore what's possible for management. We can break it down by a couple of different categories here. First off, you can do what's known as zero-touch setup for these. You can simply follow the instructions that are written right on this box here. 1, open it up. 2, plug it in, and 3, there is no step 3. It's just that simple. Next, we can start to do over-the-air configurations for Apple TVs, just like we could do over-the-air configuration for iPads or for iPhones. So if we want to update settings in the future, we can send those configurations over the air to that device and it will accept those. We can also deploy apps to Apple TV. So one of the core functionalities of tvOS is the fact that it can run apps. And there's a lot of great apps out there. Now, we can deploy what's known as enterprise apps to these devices right now. Enterprise apps are really just in-house apps. They're custom built for your organization, and then you can deploy those. Next, you can do some remote commands to these devices. So if you needed to remotely erase one, or if you wanted to tell it to reboot, you can send those commands. And there's a couple of restrictions that we can put down on here too, so that they're used in an appropriate manner in a classroom setting. I'm going to show you what it looks like to do some of these things. First off, I'm going to show you what it looks like to do a zero-touch setup of an Apple TV. So here's my Apple TV, and all I had to do was simply plug it into power, hook it up to my television, and plug in an Ethernet cable, and it automatically flew through those initial setup screens that we saw there. It happened so fast that you might not have seen it. I've got another video that will show it again here in a minute, but that's all you need to do. You literally just plug it in, plug it into the TV, and hook it up to Ethernet, and the device enrollment program combined with Jamf automatically sets up that device for you. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is the device enrollment program and how is that related to Apple School Manager? They're essentially the same thing here. And if you have signed up for one of those programs, you can take advantage of this. What's also really great is if you have older Apple TVs, and by older I really mean fourth generation or higher, that were not linked to your DEP account or to your Apple School Manager account, there is a method to get them linked to your account, and that's thanks to the Apple Configurator app that's available on a Mac. You can simply plug it into Apple Configurator, tell it where your Apple School Manager or DEP account is, and it will add it to there. There's a little side note where there is a 30-day provisional period where it could be removed again, but after 30 days it is permanently linked to your account so that you can accomplish zero-touch deployments if you happen to have bought Apple TVs outside of your normal purchasing program there. So we looked at what was introduced in tvOS 10.2. This fall, Apple came out with tvOS 11, and it continued to add even more management functionalities to it. We can now define the home screen layout so we can tell the apps where to go, and we can even hide and show various apps as well too. So maybe we don't want the App Store to be displayed or the TV app to be displayed. We can hide those. We can also do restrictions based on media content. So if I don't want my students to ever access any content that is rated above a certain rating, I can make sure I can restrict that. And super nice for management is you can now prevent the name from being changed. So you don't end up with 30 Apple TVs all named Apple TV. Pretty handy. Here's another overview of just kind of all of the different management tasks that you can do for an Apple TV. So you can see the different Airplay settings. You can put a Wi-Fi profile on there so it connects to the right Wi-Fi network. And one that I want to highlight next here is something called a conference room display mode. And conference room display mode essentially puts your Apple TV in a special mode that makes it easy for students and faculty to connect to it. Let's see what that looks like. Here's my Apple TV. I push the payload out to it, and it's already in that mode. Again, these things happen pretty fast because it all happens over the air here. But once it's in conference room display mode, it shows me this little message. The screensaver would kick in the background as well too. And it tells the users how to connect to this Apple TV to do AirPlay. Very, very simple. The next demonstration I want to show you here is what it looks like to take advantage of some of those other new management features, such as restricting laying out the home screen and then deploying an app. So here again, I've got my Apple TV, and we're going to use DEP to set it up again. So all I had to do was plug it into power, plug it into the television, and plug it into Ethernet, and it's going to automatically grab that configuration from your Jamf server here. It will auto step through all of these steps here. It accepts the configuration, and then it loads to the home screen. It's going to apply our home screen layout restriction, and it's going to remove those apps that we don't want on there. And we're now deploying a custom app. And that custom app is built by a company called Carousel Media here, or Tightrope Media System, sorry. Carousel is the app, and it's a really great digital signage app that Alex is going to talk about a little bit more here. So that's Apple TV management overview. And now to talk about it in the classroom, I'm going to turn it over to Alex.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, this is that was a really great overview of most of the things that we can do with Apple TV as a higher overview. But now what we're going to do here is kind of dive into it a little bit more about why your Apple TV needs to be in your district, and we'll talk specifically about Apple TV in the classroom here. So the first and very most important thing about bringing technology into the classroom is, can it improve the teaching experience? And sometimes using technology and introducing it into your classroom can be a really big hassle. But by using Jamf Pro to manage your iPads and your Apple TVs, we can turn that entire teaching experience into something that is really almost magical. It's almost incredible what it can do to change a classroom. So teachers will have the ability to control an entire classroom from the touch of their finger. This goes from making sure their class is focused on doing the right thing, they're having the right apps open, to having the ability to AirPlay a student device to the Apple TV in the front of the room with just a couple of taps of their finger. This makes it so incredibly easy for teachers to use, and it's almost easier to set up. The Apple TV itself, in conjunction with Jamf Pro, is something that will take the whole classroom experience to the next level for your district. The best part about this is that there's no complex workflows and there's no need for IT. All you have to do is plug in the device, grab your iPad, and in a few minutes your classroom is completely set up and ready to go with this new technology. So one of the biggest technologies that we like to talk about with the Apple TVs is the AirPlay functionality. That is probably the biggest benefit of introducing Apple TVs into your classroom. AirPlay is going to allow you to share student projects, student information, teacher projects, teacher slides to help teach seamlessly to an Apple TV through the use of AirPlay. With a couple of taps on any iPad, the info can be mirrored to the TV in the front of the room, and you'll have the ability to show your entire classroom what you've been working on. This also allows us to do this wirelessly. There's no more going to the front of the classroom and plugging your computer in or making sure you click the slide in the slideshow. You don't have to be bound to a desk at all. All you have to do is walk around, AirPlay your device to an open Apple TV, and it allows you to kind of open up the entire classroom for your teachers. This also allows you to seamlessly switch between your devices. One device can be AirPlaying. If you need to switch to another device to share what they have, it's very easy for you to say, all right, tap AirPlay, and they can just go ahead and tap AirPlay, and it switches that right over to the other iPad. There's no more plugging in cords, switching stuff up, nothing like that. It's just as easy as tapping AirPlay on the other iPad, and that's that. And the best thing about this is that it's really easy for any age group to really handle this, anywhere between K to 12 or even upper education. This is all stuff that is very easy to understand and very easy just to show. There's no complex workflows. There's nothing difficult here. It's just a simple tap on the AirPlay icon and then choose your Apple TV, and that's good to go. So in education, we often have this scenario where you have multiple classrooms next to each other with a whole bunch of iPads in there. And if you introduce Apple TVs into there, this can become a large mess very quickly. But with the use of Jamf Pro and having your iPads and your Apple TVs enrolled, we can control the location of these AirPlay devices. Pretty much what we can do is lock down the blue zone to only AirPlay to the blue zone Apple TV. We can restrict the green zone to only AirPlay to the green zone Apple TV. We can do all of this through something that we call Airplay Security. Now, Airplay Security is going to allow you to lock down all of your Jamf Pro enrolled Apple TVs and iPads to stop that previous slide from turning into a whole entire school-wide mess. We have the ability to set specific passwords for each TV room, and we can share those passwords to all of our iPads in that room without ever having to tell the teachers or students what those passwords are. This is going to prevent us from having iPads to connect to the TV that aren't supposed to. It's going to stop them from connecting to the wrong Apple TV as well. And it's going to allow us to prevent the sharing of any private data that we didn't want being shared to this TV. So for example, this is going to prevent one student in classroom A to share their project to an Apple TV in classroom B. And it's also going to stop a random bypass from the hallway with their iPhone, their personal device, from just streaming to an Apple TV that's in a location without having that password. This is also going to allow us to choose what iPads are seeing what TV by setting up iPad preferences within Jamf Pro. Essentially, we can tell a cart of iPads in a classroom that the only TV they can ever connect to is the one that is in their classroom, and they'll never have to worry about those iPads airplaying to the wrong Apple TV. And the best part about this is that this is really great for any location or organization. This is great for schools in the classroom. This is great for healthcare and hospital rooms, hospitality and hotel rooms, businesses and conference rooms. Any sort of organization can really benefit from having both their iPads and Apple TVs enrolled with Jamf Pro. So that's a great overview of Airplay Security and what we can do to lock down these devices. And something that Nick had touched on earlier is deploying custom TV OS apps. So Jamf Pro will allow you to deploy these enterprise-level applications out to all of your Apple TVs. This means that if we have an on-site developer, or we've created applications with our developer, or if maybe we've hired a third-party developer or purchased an app, we can deploy those all out to our devices. At this time, only the enterprise-level apps can be deployed, as Apple TV apps are not quite yet available for VPP distribution. Once they become available for VPP or volume purchase program distribution, Jamf will be right there ready to deploy those out en masse. One great third-party app that we had touched on earlier that we highly recommend if you're looking into bringing TVs into your district is going to be the Carousel App that was made by Tightrope Media Systems. And we're going to be touching on that a little bit later in this webinar. So what I want to show you next is what the classroom app experience looks like for a teacher-student device with an Airplay-capable Apple TV right there in the classroom. So what you'll see here is on the far left iPad is a student ready to share their books. The teacher in the center has Apple Classroom open on it, ready to stream that student device to the classroom TV within there. And that classroom TV is sitting in conference room mode, ready to accept any sort of Airplay communication. So you'll see that the teacher is going to tap on the student. They'll select Airplay. They're going to select the test room right there. And as you can see, it takes a second here. It's going to Airplay. You'll see the blue bar pop up on the left device. And right there on the Apple TV seamlessly, that device is being shared right to the entire classroom. And it's just as simple as that. Tap Airplay, pick your TV, and that's it. So that's probably the most slick way to stream any sort of information from an iPad to an Apple TV. This webinar is, however, called Why Your District Needs It, and we want to talk about why we'll use the Apple TV throughout the entire school. So the first thing we'll touch on here are hallway TVs or non-classroom specific Apple TVs. With the ability to display photo streams of a custom photo library, or even locking into specific apps such as the previously mentioned Carousel app, we can display all of our digital signage and media or any other slideshow of information that we want to these televisions. The best part about having Apple TVs set up with Jamf Pro, though, we've mentioned it before, is the ability to just plug in and walk away. This means plug in the Ethernet, hook it up to your TV using HDMI, and plug into power, and then move to the next TV. There's no other setup needed. With Jamf Pro, it'll get set up entirely. It'll get all the apps that it needs. It'll get all the restrictions that it needs, and you can just move to the next TV and continue getting it set up. So we'll talk a little bit more about video and photo streaming here. Video and photo streaming is something else that we can be using throughout our district. This can be done by logging into a media iCloud account, and on these Apple TVs, they'll have their photos ready to be shared and streamed and cycled through. This could be a video of student life we have going on. It could be photos of events that are going on at your school. It could be anything that you want to display through the photo streaming. Another great way of showing our media content is through that Carousel app. Now, you saw the app deployed earlier, but this is kind of a really nice example of what we can do. This app allows us to set up custom displays like the one we see on the right. And we can have these displays cycle through and show different things at these school events, such as school events, important messages throughout the school, scheduled morning broadcast live streams. If you have students doing a live stream, you can broadcast that on all of your TVs. And you can even have alerts override everything on the TVs. So if there's an Airplay session going on and there's a high priority alert that we need every TV to see, we can overwrite Airplay and get those alerts out there so people can see them. If we're looking for a way to really maximize Apple TV in our district, the Carousel app is the way to go. So if you're looking for a little bit more information on that app, go ahead and go to the link above, TRMS, short for tightropemediasystems.com/Apple-edu. On there, you can sign up to get more information about the app. There's also a couple other screenshots that you can look at to see what you can do with the Carousel app in your district. And the last thing I want to touch on is how we can improve faculty meetings with Apple TVs. Very similar to the classroom layout, it's going to be very, very easy for us to share all of our key information to our faculty via any iPad. There's no need to loop in IT or any tech-savvy people to get these rooms set up. Just hop in a room, start airplaying your information to your team, and that's it. This also allows us to configure these Apple TVs for multi-app use, such as news or videos, or if you need to show the science teacher up in a game of Pac-Man, you can go and do that as well. This is just as simple and easy to configure as the rest of the Apple TVs. And once your faculty meeting is done, your Apple TV can be reconfigured to use as a classroom TV with a couple clicks of a mouse. It's just that simple.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thanks, Alex.
Absolutely.
We're going to do just a quick recap here then, and then we'll dive into some Q&A. So what we really saw today was the power of Apple TV linked with Jamf Pro. And just like, iOS and iPad and iPhones really revolutionized what it meant to have a mobile touchscreen device, Apple TV is doing the same thing, but for large displays. It's all just software, and software can be remotely managed and can be remotely updated as well, too. So we saw how you can take an Apple TV and do those zero-touch deployments, how we can push out different configurations to that Apple TV so it really fits inside of our district's needs. We saw how we can deploy an app, and in that case, the Carousel app. We can also gather inventory data of these Apple TVs so we can keep track of them all. And we can lay down some security controls like Airplay Security so we don't have different classrooms trying to share to different Apple TVs. Something we didn't quite touch on here was the self-service app catalog. That's really more on our Mac and iOS devices, but it's a great way for users to get resources that they need without having to bug IT. Just a little bit of details on the tech behind the Jamf Pro server. So if you're wondering how does this all work, essentially you can have a Jamf Pro server that is either hosted by us in the cloud, and we use AWS as our infrastructure, and we've got data centers across the globe, or you could run it on-premise if you so chose to as well too, and it's very flexible. You can run it on a Linux, Windows, or Mac server because it's really just a MySQL database talking to Tomcat. And of course, we go beyond our product as well, too, with a variety of professional services that we offer where we can come on location and help you get these things set up. We offer training in the form of classroom certifications, and our support, which Alex is part of here, it has global call centers, and these guys are experts at Apple. Speaking of support, we were recently named a 2018 Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice by our customers here, and that's specifically for the Enterprise Mobility Management Suite category there. So great to see that our customers are giving us some great ratings out there in these, in this case, Gartner's Peer Insights review site here. And of course, we've got a wonderful community. If you haven't checked out Jamf Nation before, check it out. It's free, open, over 50,000 IT members. Lastly, we do, of course, support and integrate with all of the different things Apple does here. So from Apple Push Notification Service to connect your Jamf Pro server to your devices, to Device Enrollment Program, which enables those zero-touch deployments, VPP for distributing apps, or Apple School Manager, which is really just a combination of DEP and VPP specifically for schools. Hopefully you've signed up for these programs if you're thinking about Apple management at all. We integrate with third-party integrations, so Active Directory, Single Sign-On, Microsoft System Center, Cisco, ServiceNow, and we've got a very, very robust API too. If you're looking for additional integrations, we've got a great marketplace where you can find those at marketplace.jamf.com. And if you're a developer looking to make your own integrations, we've got great developer resources too, developer.jamf.com. So we'll wrap up here with some next steps. Contact us to get started. Head over to jamf.com. Just click on that little button that says chat with us, and we would love to talk to you about what it looks like specifically for your school and what it looks like to have Apple TVs, Mac, and iOS devices in your environment. Of course, check out some of our other webinars as well too. We dive into a number of different topics. You can go as technical as you want or stay as high level as you want as well too. And highly, highly recommend it. Check out Jamf Nation. Join the discussion, create a free account, and just learn from others in your industry to see what they're doing with Apple devices. So with that, I want to thank everyone, and that concludes our main presentation.